Hi, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of the Endless Celts Podcast. I'm joined by Ross. How you doing, buddy?
Well, apparently I'm overcome with emotion, but apart from that, I'm not bad, mate. Looking forward to talking some Celtic again. How are you?
Oh, man, I'm 100% tough day at work. And that is that your Twitter handle, Overcome with Emotion? That's
No,
incredible. Good on the
it's
band for
no
that.
my Twitter handle. I don't even know what my Twitter handle is.
We need to see when John sees us. He's going to go butt mad. But I mean,
Aye.
to be fair, we have a lot to talk about. But I want to get into the nitty gritty side of things. We at the end of Celts have been busy in our own transfer market, in a sense. Yeah, we've paid no fees, but do you know what I mean? He's great. He's coming on board, to be honest. And it's the mystery man, as we've seen on Twitter during the week. Now, to be fair, Ross, it's going to be a hard one tonight when people realise what's going to happen. But we're delighted to be joined by our new contributor to the Endless Celts podcast, and that is the man himself, Ross McCall.
Oh, look at
How you
that
doing, Ross?
introduction. What an introduction, lads. I'm honoured. I'm
You
doing
keep
all right.
well, buddy?
I'm doing well, yeah. I'm doing well. I've got the old school hoops on tonight. And
Yeah, I noticed. Cracking
very,
top. I think I think for the running order of things, I'll call this guy Roscoe, and we'll stick with Ross for you just to kind of keep it sweet. But I mean, delighted to have you on board. I mean, we're buzzing. Do you know what I mean? As you said, anytime you're available, and you've got plenty of free time at the minute when things go on in the States. So you're on talking about Celtic with us guys. And first of all, coming to you, Ross McCall first. We've been doing a kind of a push on mental health awareness and just kind of having a chat about people's week. So how's the last couple of days went for yourself? What have you been up to? And how are you feeling in general?
things are good. Things are good. I mean, as you just pointed out, yeah, I'm on strike right now. But I was speaking to you before we got on. It's not quite the 80s strike. You know, I want to tie people up and put them in the trunk of a car to get things moving. But it's an LA strike, which means we're all just sort of walking around the studio eating free donuts, you know. But yeah, I'm doing all right, man. I think mental health is vitally important. It's something that's come into football now. I think a lot of teams are actually using this to their advantage in many ways and digging deep into the squads. And I think it's important, you know. Men should talk. Lads can talk about their feelings, and it's all right, man. It's a whole new world.
Yeah, as you said, it's coming obviously more prominent in football. Obviously, we've seen the Dele Alli stuff and different footballers in different leagues.
Yeah, I thought it was a brilliant interview. Actually, I was really, I thought he was really brave and courageous and all that. And I think, footballers have a platform, and it's a wonderful gift to be able to give back to youngsters who are perhaps struggling, or even middle agers who are struggling. You know, it's nice to be able to come out and say it's all right. It's all right. There's nothing weak about talking. Being vulnerable is actually kind of a strength.
Yeah, 100%. You learn a lot at your weakest, don't you? And as we said, the numbers here are below. Get involved with it. Reach out to ourselves. We're always free to talk. And coming to you, Roscoe, how's your week been? What have you been up to? How was your weekend?
Another sort of quieter weekend. That's 2 in a row. I've tried to be a bit more healthy. Been out back into my running and that again. Quiet weekend. And at the minute, as you know, I'm 4-day weeks, taking the Friday off to do stuff with my wee girl while it's the summer holidays. And that's almost at an end, and all it's done is rain. But as I said, looking forward to getting on the night, talking a wee bit Celtic, and hopefully the weather brightens up in the next couple of days, because it's been absolutely atrocious.
I do want to jump in there, though, very, very quickly, Stephen. You were saying at the beginning that you've done your own transfer, but with no fees. And I want to sort of highlight that. And maybe guys, we need to have an extended conversation. You know,
it's a biscuit tin mentality.
I know. All of us, who are you, Peter Law? Come on. I love it.
Like, I mean, we can talk about fees, we can talk about royalties and stuff, Ross, after the podcast if you want. But as you said there, we're just delighted to have you on board as a contributor to the team, and we look forward to many more podcasts together. And we'll get stuck into it. Obviously, covering Celtic and Ireland. Ross, I'll come to you first for this. Just we've seen them go to obviously Japan, playing Yokohama and Gambo Osaka. The career tour fell through. We played the team Wolves, who were meant to play. And just a kind of broad kind of thing. You mentioned Peter Lawwell there, and you kind of have admiration for him. But how important is it for Celtic to, like, their brand, get it recognised worldwide? We've seen think it was in the paper, we were 44th richest club brand in world football, which I think is fantastic. You don't really recognise them sort of stats when you're just focusing on other things. But going to the likes of Japan, coming back home to Ireland only bodes well for not only the club. I mean, over here especially, a lot of young people support United, Chelsea's, Liverpool's, and they kind of have Celtic as their second team. But if you want to have people coming up again like myself to support Celtic as just the number one like me, you need to come there and go to these places and make your mark globally.
Well, I think that, the club is built on its fan base. Everyone's very vocal about that. And for years, and this is just my own inside knowledge, for years when I talk with a club and we're talking about various things, that the highest point for them is getting the brand out there, and it's about coming up with ideas on how to get the brand out there. And I think Japan was a wonderful way forward. Obviously, with Ange coming in, he knew that market well. He knew the players well. And the players hit the ground running. If we'd had some Japanese players come in who perhaps didn't perform to the levels that our boys are, it'd be a different story. But they've skyrocketed, and so any fandom is important. And if we can expand it, I mean, we're even in talks of how to get it bigger in the US as well. It's like Celtic as a brand, it's a recognizable shirt. Everywhere you go, you know about it. It's kind of got a clean cut look about it. Anyone who's, on the proverbial fence between Celtic and Rangers probably lean more towards us anyway, because it just seems like a cleaner brand. So it's hugely important. And I think, going back to Ireland was a great step for us. And, it pays back a little for the supporters. So it was probably better that we played there than Korea.
Yep.
But, I mean, we won that game 1-0 in my head. There's no no way that we drew with Wolves on a dodgy penalty, and we're all over them. So I was actually happy with the game, to be honest. I thought we played brilliantly. I thought Japan was a good test for us. It was shocking that there was 6 goals put past us in the first game, but when you look at it, you sort of understand why. In preseason we get carried away and we think it's a league final, and it's not. And so watching them just, get stuck in, it was eye-opening. And the second game, Bernabei's little wonder goal at the end.
What a player, by the way.
I just love how he hit it and he stopped and then he went, fuck it. And he kept running, and he went for it. But, it shows desire. And, this is not news to anybody. I'm a fan of Brendan. I'm in Brendan's camp and I'm happy he's back. And, I think he's going to continue on what Ange had sort of set up for us. So I'm excited. For that.
Yeah. Well, we'll obviously come back to the game, Ross, in terms of playing Wolves and even touching on the Japan games as well. But, Roscoe, you look at it coming to Ireland. I mean, in my own country, I was priced out of going to it. Maybe they could look at ticket pricing and stuff like that. I mean, it was like €45 for the cheapest seat. It was an absolute disgrace. But fair play to the fans who actually made it and made the journey. And you looked at the stadium, didn't look quite full, but when the match kicked off, it was the back stand was full and the forward face one on the cameras was half full. So good turnout. And what, like Ross said there, I mean, you have to look at it. In America, you're wearing the shirt proudly there, Ross. In the States, I mean, we have great links there, and some of our ex-players are doing quite well over there as well. You look at Japan, as Ross said, maybe Ideguchi, but the rest of them have made the grade, and they're trying to kind of get into the team in one way or another. But how important is it to kind of boost the money coming into the club? And we've also seen in Japan, our club shirt was being sold along the likes of Chelsea, Atletico Madrid's, Real Madrid's, and the Adidas shop. And I think that's a great step forward for not only Celtic, but the brand as well.
All right. Well, I mean, Celtic are a global brand already. It doesn't matter where you go. You watch. I was watching, sure it was the Wimbledon final, and there was a guy in the background with the 8 trebles t-shirt on, and you would see things on the television like games in America or whatever, and you usually do tend to see a Celtic top somewhere or another. People, it's a renowned thing. People say these are everywhere, and they are. But like you say, they could. Well, they've went to Japan there. Obviously, it was in line to go to Korea, and it expands as we had Nakamura, and we never really. I don't think we utilised that as much as we maybe could have. But obviously, it's maybe I don't know, 15 years down the line, we're more modern. It's easier again to like reach far-flung corners of the world in the modern day than what it maybe was even 15 years ago. And I think Celtic are being run like a more modern club, and they are reaching out further, and they're sort of using the fact that they've got the Japanese players in. They don't, as I say, they didn't utilise it as much when it was Nakamura. Even when, like, say, Key was here. Who else was it? Was it Chaduri or something? I can't remember. But they didn't utilise it. But they didn't utilise it as much back then. And I think they're realising now that there is a sort of avenue, if you like, into all these countries, and they are starting to use it more. Obviously, we were supposed to be playing in Korea and it fell through, and we went to Ireland, and I totally agree with you. Going to Ireland was really good, and I think that was the first time Celtic had played in Ireland for something like 19. Was it 2015?
Because we played Barcelona in the Aviva, and then
so we did,
before that we played Liverpool at Rodgers, Liverpool at the time.
Right. Well, I thought it was longer than that, actually, but you're right enough. I'd heard whatever I was listening to, they'd said something like 1999, so that's obviously misinformed. But regardless, I mean, 2015 is 8 years ago. It's only across the water. The fan base that we've got in Ireland, we should be taking, certainly pre-season, we should try and maybe play one game, even if it's every 2 years. It doesn't need to be every year, just to sort of not repay, but show that sort of thanks to the guys that travel over every second week to come and support the team. They pay money out their own pockets to come and support the team. So to do that, would be a nice gesture on Celtic's part. I would like to see them playing more in Ireland in future.
Yeah, 100%. As I said, bringing them home, I think, is a good kind of marketing ploy to tap into. Celtic are missing the trick with that one. And it's maybe 19 years is a push, but 8 years is still a long time not to go back to a country where most of your fans travel to kind of week in, week out and follow the club around Europe. But Ross, we'll go on to the Wolves game as well. You mentioned it. You said it was a 1-0 victory in your head. I mean, you look at the attacking side of things before we come on to defensively. We started with Abada, Kyogo and Daisameda went back to the left-hand side. And I just fought in that first half. I mean, there were so many opportunities. The Kyogo goal came from a pressing move we're famous for under Postecoglou, but they put Wolves into the left-hand side, kept him there. He nicked the ball, played it into Abada. Abada laid it back. It was a great first-time finish. Rio Tate hit the bar from an impossible angle, and there was a few other opportunities mixed in with that. But how did you feel? Yeah, Kyogo with a chip, 100%. How did you feel? I mean, coming up against Wolves, they're a decent Premiership side. You've got decent pedigree of players. I mean, they were investing heavily in their squad in the last couple of years. How do you feel about coped with that pressure? And from my point of view, I love it when we go against an EPL team and prove ourselves and do a job on them, which essentially we done that in the first half.
Yeah, I think we go into any game with English opposition just to sort of silence the critics and silence the haters. I'm probably the minority. You know, we've joked about this before. You know, as a Celtic fans, it can be somewhat pessimistic sometimes, you know, and optimistic in other times. And for me, I say we should be beating Wolves. Like, sure, they've got a lot of money. I get it. You know, if you're in the Premiership, even if you finish last, you're getting a lot of dough and you're spending out, 50+ million on signings. But, you know, as a team and as the style of football that we play, we should be putting Wolves away. And it shouldn't be, a sort of a crazy thought to beat United or Arsenal or any of these guys. I mean, on our day, we can really compete against anyone. We just need to be on point. And I think a lot of that is squad depth. I think that's what we're getting into now. You know, when I was hearing rumour that Carl Starfelt was maybe on the way out because we brought in a guy, I was annoyed at hearing that because I'm like, we need centre back. Like, what are we doing? We can't be replacing. So I'm happy so far that he's still with us. But for me, we should be sticking away Wolves, and we did. We outplayed them. First half for sure, we completely outplayed them. Should have been 4.
Yeah, easy.
That's a little bit of our same problem as we had last year. Should be and could be are two different things. We should have scored in every European game last year and we didn't. So
don't get me started about
that.
I'm hoping
No, don't.
whatever that kink is going to get ironed out, because we should have put 4 in, and the fact that we didn't is slightly concerning. But like you said, Hatate I thought was outstanding in Japan. I thought he was a little off his boil against Wolves, but still, I mean, when he's playing, he's incredible for us. I think, he's a must. And Kyogo, I mean, the guy's a mini genius. That chip, if it had gone in, would have been, I think Jerry said it on Celtic TV, it would have been goal of the season already. I mean, it was just a beautifully worked move. But yeah, for me, we should be putting the likes of Wolves away. I wasn't surprised. I was expecting a win.
Yeah, no, 100%. I'm on board with that thinking. See, it's one of these things that English Premier League, Roscoe has us thinking that kind of we can't compete with these teams. And as Ross said, did have money, but it wasn't a mad thought in years gone by. Us beating United, us challenging an Arsenal, and kind of Blackburn, Liverpool, get back to the Seville run and stuff. And I know it was a pre-season game, but to be honest, it got me tingling when we played Wolves in that first half. And you looked at Abada, I think he looks a different animal already in terms of pre-season. He looks tanked up. He looks built. He's running. He's being direct. Kyogo, albeit he had the shoulder injury that he's been speaking about with Rodgers, took this goal fantastically well at an angle, curled it around their defender. And then you have to look at it like this. I mean, Rodgers was speaking about bringing physical players into the team, but I think we cope well with the physical pressure Wolves had to offer us. He had 6'4" centre backs. Their midfielders were athletic. And like you said, Ross, Hatate maybe didn't have his best game, but he was trying things, and that kind of shot he had from the byline basically that hit the bar was incredible, that angle. So how did you feel it went against Wolves, and also do you think we're seeing the imprint of the Rodgers style?
I don't know if we're seeing the imprint of the Rodgers style just yet. I think it'll come in time, absolutely. I think it was Greg Taylor the day sort of had said that they've been working in different formations and stuff, and he expects them to go between a lot of different formations, whereas Ange was like the 4-3-3, the one style all the time. And as much as people say it was always gung-ho, it wasn't always gung-ho, but I think in terms of the game, I think that Celtic started the game really well. I think under Ange, they were frightening, absolute dynamite at times going forward. And I think on the evidence of that game, and even the evidence of is it Gambo Osaka they played?
Gambo Osaka, yeah.
They looked really good going forward. And you have touched on like the goal, a couple of openings that they created, chances for Hatate, and it was all really well worked moves, fast football, one touch passing, and Wolves couldn't really cope with it for the first half an hour, 20 minutes, half an hour. I think Celtic were the better team. I think nobody can argue that by a considerable distance, and I think that you could probably see that Celtic were probably, you could notice that Celtic were probably a week in front of Wolves in terms of their preparation pre-season. Wolves are obviously that wee bit behind because the English Premier League starts, I think it's a week later. But like you say, Wolves are a good side. As much as I think when that Lopetegui took over, they were bottom of the league, but they ended up, I think, 13th or 14th. So they're a well-established Premier League team now. They obviously lost that Jimenez, but they as you say, they've still got a lot of good players, a lot of strong athletic players, and Celtic definitely cope well with it. And I know you probably got onto the defence. I thought that before a ball was kicked,
I'm coming on to the defence.
Aye, when I seen that centre half pair, and I was like, this could be another one of the sort of I forget the name of that Japanese team that put 6 past this. Yokohama. I thought it was going to be like along the lines of that, along the lines of the West Ham game last pre-season. Didn't turn out like that. Celtic held their own, played really well. I thought in the second half, towards the end of the first half and into the second half, I thought Wolves, they certainly came more into the game, and I thought they controlled the ball pretty well. Celtic were more breaking off of mistakes or whatever, but I think, as I say, Wolves controlled the ball pretty well, but Celtic probably had the better chances, and you could see that Wolves, they didn't quite have that sort of cutting edge, that final ball. And I think probably given time that will come. And if Celtic were to play Wolves later on in the season, I think it'd be another close. Well, I think Celtic, like you said, should have scored 3 or 4 in that game. But I think if it was a sort of mid-season game, I think it'd be a very, very good contest between the two sides, and it'd be difficult to pick a winner. But these are the teams. Wolves, like you look at West Ham last year, they sort of probably finished similar position to Wolves. Obviously, they had European football and they went on and won a European trophy. You look at that, Celtic competed with Wolves, and I think, as I say, they would compete with Wolves in any game at any point in the season. I think they would do the same with West Ham. So then you look at it and go, right, West Ham went and won a European trophy, so why can't we do that?
And we're going to come on to that later in the podcast about European ambition. Dale Thomas.
By the way, I'm getting a bit of an echo, so I don't know if it's me.
You unplug yourself and plug it back in.
It's a whistle or an echo. I don't know what it is.
It's me, no, we're joking. Jed Thomas had to change with boxer shorts when I seen our centre half parents. To be honest, so did I. But Ross, before we come on to that, the centre half and the defence side of things, I'm big on it, and sometimes I'm probably overcritical, but that's just me. You'll get used to that. But I mentioned Abada de Roscoe, and I've seen your eyes perk up. Do you think he's going to have a big season under Rodgers? Could he be the Scott Sinclair or even fill Jota's shoes?
Yeah, I think the bonus that you have with someone like Brendan Rodgers, and we're all aware of this, I'm just repeating what other people have said, but, he does develop players very well. And I think Abada was on the cusp of, he was our substitute last year. Jota had his position, Maeda had his position. He was left out in the cold a lot. But when he's on form, and he's still a young lad, he's still young. But I thought he was electric the other night. I think he's been electric all preseason. I can see him, really driving at players, really hitting that wing, almost to the point, dare I say it, I haven't missed Jota yet. And because I'm going, okay, we're in capable hands. And I remember feeling that way when Abada first came as well, whenever Abada was dropped, because he was the one that was scoring against Rangers, pretty constantly, and other people as well. But, in big games, he was really sort of showing up. And so when I didn't see him on the team sheet, it took me a while to adjust. And so seeing him here, I thought he was electric. I also thought in the second half, just what Roscoe was saying, it became a physical game in the second half against Wolves. They were getting a bit punchy and we started punching back, which was nice. There was a bit of aggression there. I think we all had to freak out. When I saw the back four, my first thought was, where's Starfelt? Why is he not on the bench? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, please don't tell me where.
He's in Moscow, Ross.
Yeah, that's how I was feeling, And I was like, fuck's sake. We've just bought someone to back this up. Like, what are we doing? So I'm relieved to see that that's not transpired. Not good. But I thought Scales, I actually talked about Scales a lot to my old man over the preseason. I thought he had a great preseason. I thought he was a very good player for us. I don't think he's first team quality. I don't think he's number one pick. But I thought he did very, very well. He did good pass with the ball, strong. I thought Welsh held up really well. I was impressed with him. Do I want them as our first pick? No, of course not. But I thought it could have. My fear was another West Ham game as well. I was like, oh man, we've got a good, strong midfield and front system here, but our back sort of reeks of inexperience.
Yeah.
But I thought we did really well.
Yeah, that West Ham game, all I remember is Antonio just kind of destroyed us at the back. It was a shambles that time. But we'll come on to the defensive side of things, and I'll come straight back at you, Ross. And me and Roscoe have debated this over and over again. And I want to start with the man in particular, and that's Joe Hart. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, after the game, I've seen a lot of people saying he needs to go, he's too slow. I'm still of that opinion. We need a new number one, but I did give him praise for the save he made after the penalty kick was given away. I thought it was a cracking save. I think it was can't remember the name of their player, but he cut in from the right hand side. And he palmed it away with a good solid right hand. But in that game, within the first 25 seconds, he put the ball out for a corner kick. Mm-hmm. At the second half, he had the ball at his feet. He passed it to their player, and luckily for a bad touch, it ended up back at Joe Hart. And just a few other incidents like that. So where do you stand on the Joe Hart thing? And obviously the Croatian goalkeeper, Lakovic, probably said that all wrong, but apparently his move has fell through to Fenerbahce. And we're still in the running for him. So would you be off the kind of the thinking that we need a new keeper, or would you be happy with Joe?
I think it really does boil down to age at this point. You know, I was a fan of bringing in Joe Hart at the beginning. I know that he's a much maligned figure in that sense because he'd been let go from so many other teams, and so why are we taking him? It's no secret he seems like a stand-up in the dressing room. You know, he's got maturity about him. He's got experience. He seems like a great lad. I don't know him, I sort of felt safe with him last year.
Fuck, only you then?
Yeah. Well, listen, I mean, I guess it was down to I felt safe that our defense was for the first time showing a little bit of promise for a while. I guess that's what it was. I was like, okay, we've kind of got a better defensive setup than we've had in a long time. Was my personal opinion. I like him as a keeper. Do I think he should be our number one full time? No. I think it's about time we brought in somebody else. I think he's probably aware that day's coming. But again, I think he's the best of who we have. I think Segrist is decent at times. You know, I think he comes in and he covers well. And like you said, listen, Joe Hart's a good keeper with his hands. He's a good keeper with his hands. You know,
with his feet.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're in a game now where we do need the foot action, and he's all over the map. And when that happened, like within 40 seconds, I'm like, for fuck's sake. Yeah, and you feel for him as well because he knows. He's sitting there. So yeah, look, I think any of us would be ridiculous to say no. He's definitely the best choice. Of course, there's other keepers out there. You know, I was a big Fraser Foster fan for a long time. I think it's something Celtic do is we tend to breed good keepers.
No, 100%. I think we have a good kind of scouting kind of ratio on that. Fraser Foster, Craig Gordon, Arthur Bhoys, just name a few. Ross
Woods is he holds his own with the training camp. So they're in their hands.
Big Stevie Woods is a cracking goalkeeping coach by going everyone who's worked under him. But you look at it, Roscoe. I mean, that Croatian keeper Lakovic, Corvo comes in. He'll fly to Zagreb to get him, no problem. This man is what you want in a goalkeeper. He knocked out Japan and Spain in the World Cup, and for £8 million, that's a steal if I ever seen one. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And you mentioned defeat, Ross, and I mean Jose Sav for Wolves was so comfortable on the ball. I thought he was chipping it into midfield, he was chipping it out wide, and you're going, if we had that wee bit to link, and I think would be a force to be reckoned with. Not that we aren't already, but that's that wee bit more. And I think for me, Roscoe, to Joe Hart, he's done being number one. And I thought it was quite telling, though, that Segrist and Bain didn't even get a run out in the second half. I think Rodgers, maybe if he had a perfect situation, he'd probably get rid of all the goalkeepers and bring in a new goalkeeper department. But you can't do that. Would you take the Croatian in? And also, what would you do with Joe Hart?
Listen, if you can get Livakovic, you do it. It's an absolute no-brainer. I'm more surprised that there isn't more clubs in for him. Because he was so good in the World Cup. Now, I'm only basing my knowledge is off the World Cup. I haven't seen him playing for Zagreb or that. But for all the world, he looks a real quality keeper. And I cannot believe that it's only Fenerbahce and possibly us. I mean, I don't even know if we are in for it. But if you can get Livakovic for £8 million, that's well within our reach. You go and do it. But you don't do it. Well, listen, I was going to say you don't do it and lose Hart. Livakovic, you could probably 90% say he's going to come in and do the job and do it really well and be better than Joe Hart. But if we aren't getting Livakovic and we're still trying to bring another keeper in, I think you have to be really careful and you have to keep Hart because you don't want, I've said it numerous times, you don't want a Barkas situation where you bring somebody in that you've paid good money for, but you don't actually know if he's going to make the grade. And then you're left thrashing about for Segrist to Bain again, like we did in the season for the 10. It was an absolute disaster. You need somebody that you can rely on. Now, I understand. I can totally see it. I'm no daft. I cannot ignore it that Joe Hart isn't great with his feet. But at the same time, Ross had said he felt safe with him last year. And I did too. And he is getting older, but the age thing doesn't make his foot. That isn't what affects his footwork, if you like. Now, I don't know if it's similar to the players. He's trying to get up to speed again. He needs games. I'm not saying Joe Hart is the answer long term because he isn't. But if we couldn't get Livakovic and we couldn't get another keeper to come in right now, I would be comfortable with Joe Hart going forward. I think that he was part of a really good defence last year. I don't remember his feet work costing us, other than in the Leipzig game, which was
St. Mirren game.
obvious.
Well, that was more of a reflex issue in that game. Never mind feet, but yeah.
Nah, no, that's that you can't even bring that into the conversation. I'm sorry, but
he tends to when Hart fumbles something, when he screws something up, he tends to come back with something great pretty soon after. He tends to.
He doesn't dwell on his mistake. Right. Definitely no. But I mean, other than that Leipzig game, probably I think it was a game at Ibrox last season where we were up. It was two each. We were up 1-0, and he's made that mistake, and it gave Rangers that bit of life. It injected them a bit of life, and it gave them hope in the game, and they came back into it. And then I think they were up 2-1. But other than that, I don't remember Joe Hart costing us due to his feet. And every keeper at some point in a season makes a huge mistake, and it's highlighted more because they're a keeper. We all know that. Joe Hart, for me, probably made 2 big mistakes, and they were the 2 ones I've highlighted there. Obviously, there's other times throughout the season where you think, right, okay, maybe could have done better there. I don't recall what they were, but there was, I think, was it the Shakhtar game? People were saying he maybe could have done better with the Mudryk goal. Possibly, but he sees it late. Listen, at that point, you go, right, okay, maybe his reflexes and stuff aren't quite the same. As I say, if we can't get Livakovic, I don't want us just signing another Barkas where we've maybe shelled out 5-6 million. It's terrible at penalties. I've never seen anything like it in my life. It's incredible. But I don't want us just saying, right, we'll just get this keeper because Joe Hart isn't good enough anymore. Joe Hart he can still do a job for Celtic, certainly domestically, but going into that European stage, maybe we certainly could improve on him. We should improve on him if we can. But again, I'll say it, if we can't, Joe Hart will do for me for another season.
I would agree with that. I mean, it doesn't feel like we've been left with a Barkas, and God bless him. He's a good keeper. He just didn't work for us. But it's not like that. Do I think Joe Hart's the greatest goalkeeper that Celtic have ever had? No, of course not. Do I think that he could do a job for us? Yeah. If we're left with him, do I have the same feeling as I would being with Barkas? No. I feel safer with Hart. Maybe that's personality. Maybe that's experience. He's been in these games a lot. Is he the greatest we've ever had? No. Is there better out there? Yeah. Will we get them? Who knows? We've got to wait the next couple of weeks. I think the next couple of weeks are going to be pretty pivotal. To see what the signings are. I saw Brendan's thing this morning on Sky, and saying that there's no way we're spending 15 or 20 mil, which I think if we're all honest, we all know that. There's no way we're going to afford the wages for somebody who's going to cost 20 mil. But I think really what he's saying is I'd be surprised if we didn't get like another big signing of around the 10 million mark. That it would surprise me. Yeah. It would very well be the keeper.
Yeah, we're going to come on to what Roger said. I've seen again a lot of different opinions and what that means for us going forward in terms of transfers. But just to kind of round off on Hart, I totally disagree with the both of you. I think there's no surprise here. Like I really do. I think if you're looking at ambition, you're looking at going far in Europe. He's far too slow. He's too lethargic. He doesn't command his box well. Reflexes are shocking at times in European football. And we need a goalkeeper who's on the ball and just alert and ready. And if it's Lakovic, if it's not him, if it's someone else, like you said, Ross, of course there's better. But it comes down to the remit of what we can afford, and we'll come on to that. And you mentioned,
happier, Stephen? Would you be happier with like Barkas? No, right?
Well, I mean, no. I mean, you look at Barkas. Utrecht pulled a masterstroke there, by the way. Like, go tell your club we can't afford you, and they'll let you go for free. And he signs for them again on a free transfer. Like, that's madness. But Barkas had a lot of potential. He played against us in the Champions League. He was what a modern goalkeeper looked like. But as you said, he joined us during COVID. His confidence went early on. There was no crowd behind him. He just looked like he didn't want to be there. He wasn't happy. And sometimes it ends like that. I wouldn't be happy with a bar cast, but again, you have to come out of that comfort zone. You're saying you're safe with Hart. That's fair enough. But we'll have to move on from Hart one day.
Yeah,
I mean he's 36, 37.
I'm certainly not saying that we're safe with Hart. Hey, listen, no, I'm happy with that.
I think me and Ross have actually sort of agreed with to an extent to what you're saying, but we've said it with a bit more level-headedness.
I'm level-headed.
Yeah.
No.
I think we all are in agreement. Look, do we think that our number one should be a different number one? Yeah. And but if it doesn't come out that way, is it going to be like, oh my God, I'm in this situation. I can't believe we've got Bain in between the sticks. No. I think it's a level above that. Is it the level we want to be? No. For sure. For sure we can improve.
Yeah, I could do a better job. No, I'm joking. I'm not being disrespectful to Joe Hart. Obviously, he's been cracking for us the last 2 seasons. I mean, treble winner, double winner. Yeah. He's been in that team, and as you said as well, the defensive unit last season was unbeatable in domestic football.
When the rumor was that he was coming up, there was a big fraction of our support going, "No way! Why would we have Joe Hart?"
Me?
I was one of them. I was.
I'm
happy to be proved wrong.
Come on. I'm level-headed. Come on. I'm doing equal sides here. You know what I mean? But, Ross, coming back to yourself, obviously Joe Hart divides opinion in the chat, and it's good to see all the disagreements, but you mentioned the Rocky coming in and the implications of Starfelt might be leaving, but that's kind of quieting down. I want to focus on Stephen Welsh and Liam Scales. You mentioned you thought Scales had a fantastic pre-season. I think for me, the Rocky coming in pushes them further down the pecking order, so do you think it's probably Cheerio or Riva Dirtsy for them too?
I'd imagine so. I think we've been caught on our heels a couple of times with our centre backs though. I think the good news about Welsh is I think, and I could be wrong, I don't know what's in his head, but I'd imagine he's all right being a squad player for a while. Is he somebody that I would be, third or fourth choice? Yeah. Liam Scales, I just think he's a decent footballer. I mean, he might go back to Aberdeen for the year. I know there's sort of in talks about it. It's been rumored in the press. I just didn't want it to be like, yeah, we brought in Rocky, so we'll let one of our centre backs go, and
it counteracts it, doesn't it? It counteracts that thing if you let Starfelt leave.
Yeah, it makes no sense to me. It just feels that then, we just wanted to bring in a new centre back because we were going to lose one of them. So I'm hoping that they're there. There's competition for that place. I think creating a new partnership with Carter Vickers and Rocky would be interesting, and Carter Vickers and Starfelt. I think it would be great to have 3 centre backs that you could solidly rely on. And if one were injured, or if one just needed a break, or if we had you could just switch in and out.
I think as well, you have them quality players to push on in training. Do you mean you're not going to feel much of a challenge from a Welsh or Liam Scales at the minute? Do you know what I mean? So Starfelt's safe in the thought.
Was doing before he left too was he was making sure there were 2 in every position. He was making that fight there. The fact that we had Johnson and Ralston, and what I loved about last season, I've got to say, is there were many moments I was like, it didn't matter to me what that team sheet was looking like. I felt comfortable. There's times where I can see you, Stephen, go, no, I didn't. But, there was where I'm looking and I'm going, listen, if Ralston's in, I feel that Ralston will give us a game. I think he's strong. He feels it. I felt the same way, and this is a very, mixed bag and tears of support. Even me and my dad argue about it. But Burnham By sometimes, I thought he had great games sometimes. I thought,
yes, there's another one. Come on.
And other times, I know Roscoe and some of the other lads are not for him, and I get it. But I was like, I'm okay with him and Taylor. Either or at one point, I was okay with. So I think having that competition in the centre back would be imperative, and it's something that we touched upon earlier. We need that strength. We need that.
Yep.
We need some stronghold, and that would be my only comment about a Liam Scales is I don't see him as a built lad. Not that he needs to be, but yeah, I thought he had a decent preseason. Is he my choice for the slot? No. but I thought he was good.
A bit like Joe Hart, not the choice, but he'll do. But Liam Scales, I mean, he's got a lot of plaudits. Roscoe during the pre-season, everyone's basically saying he's probably one of our best defenders. He got a good run of games. Against Wolves, he was reading the game well. He was breaking up the play. He was even moving in the midfield at points. And Aberdeen signed a big 6'4" Serbian centre half the night. So I don't know where that leaves him going to Barry Robson's team. I don't know if he's going to stay as a squad filler or to fill the quota out. But with Naraki coming in, like Ross said, where do you think that puts them in the pecking order? And do you think if we have, for example, Carter Vickers, Starfelt, Naraki, Welsh, Lawwell, and then thing underneath him, Liam Scales, is that too much? Do you need to kind of trim that down?
Well, you're looking at it, you've got, as you say, CCV, Starfelt, Navrocki. You're saying they're probably your first choice 3. Then you've got Kobayashi, Welsh, Scales, and Lawwell. That's 7 centre halves, and like you couldn't bring Navrocki in and sell Starfelt, because that's just keeping, it's just staying the same, if you like. It's just levelling out what you've lost, if you like. But last season, if Starfelt wasn't fit or CCV wasn't fit, which was very rare, the drop off for a Starfelt to a Kobayashi or a Welsh, Scales wasn't there, obviously, but it was too big, it was too stark. So I actually, as much as I like Starfelt, I hope that Navrocki is a level above Starfelt, because if he's a level above Starfelt, then he's closer to CCV. And as much as that partnership with CCV and Starfelt has been really, really good for Celtic, one of the best in a number of years at centre half, I do think we can still improve on Starfelt. And I hate saying that because he's been so good for us. But listen, it's the competition that you want. It's the only one so far, in my opinion, who the guys that we've signed that you could say on paper is coming in with a bit of pedigree. It's a decent fee for him. He's a guy that can come in and challenge for the first 11. And it'll be a good sort of ding-dong with him and Starfelt, you would hope. The rest at the minute, I don't know if they can challenge, or certainly you look at Kwon coming into that midfield 3.
By the way, size of Kwon.
He done really well when he came on. He put himself about, but you look at our midfield 3, Cal McGregor, he's always going to play the 6, you would think. Is Kwon going to take him out of the team? No, because he's the captain. Is he going to play the Hatate role? No, because on the face of it, he doesn't look like that type of player. He's been brought in as a defensive midfielder. I don't know, but certainly Navrocki is the one that excites me the most, and he's the one that's got the best chance of making an impact in the first 11 pretty early on. Given the fact as well, I said that in the last time I was on, given the fact that Carter Vickers is injured now, although I think, I don't know if did I hear right the day that he is in line for a start at the weekend?
Yeah.
So
they all trained today.
I'd be surprised if he started, because he's not really had a pre-season. I would expect it to be Navrocki and Starfelt if Starfelt's fit. But then if Starfelt's no fit, maybe you just throw CCV in. I don't know, but I think Navrocki's going to get more game time than probably expected to begin with, and it will give him an opportunity to really stake a claim.
Yeah, I think it was with Naraki as well. It gives you that flexibility to maybe go to free it back in European football, 3-5-2. We know Rodgers liked to play that in his later days with Leicester City. But, I mean, we'll park that one, Ross, and we'll come to the left back. Now, you mentioned you had arguments with your dad and stuff about Burnaby, about Taylor. Me and Ross last week had a quite heated argument about Burnaby. I'm on the side of Burnaby. I think he's going to be one of the breakout players on the Rodgers, but we'll come to see that in the future. For me, one of the negative points about the Wolves game was I thought Greg Taylor was out of his depth. Semedo, their right back, roasted him every single time he got the ball. For me, Greg Taylor didn't look comfortable. You're laughing, he's laughing. This is fine. Greg Taylor didn't look comfortable. He gave the ball away so many times. He lacked the pace. He lacked the physicality. Yeah, you're going to point to Burnaby not having that. That's fair enough. But he's got pace over him. I 100% stand by that one. But going into European football, like we're all talking about, and you said we can improve in positions, this for me, a left back for me is a certainty that we need to improve on. Obviously, Kieran Tierney liked the game, Ross. I don't think that's going to happen. I really don't. But the rumour's not going away. Just watching Greg Taylor against Wolves, he just looked out of his depth completely.
I felt that the whole pre-season, Taylor wasn't up to snuff. I felt in Japan, he was out of his depth too. Now, that might just be pre-season. What I will say about him is I thought he did brilliantly last season. I did think he came in and he put in shifts for us. He works hard for the jerseys. You can tell what the club means to him. He seems like a real important member of the team. He's got a great personality about him. And last season, I liked him. I did. And even, when we were talking about Tierney, there was a part of me going, that's a shame. I think Taylor's really working hard for that left back position. It would be, a shame to see him booted straight away if KT were to come back. But I like Bernabé. I do. I mean, do I prefer him? No, I'd prefer Taylor at this point, like to start the game. But I don't mind when he comes in. I think he's a very skillful player, Bernabé. I think he's speedy. I think he's just got that drive to him. He's got a shot on him as well. He's got a peg on him when he goes for it. Yeah, I mean, it's probably one of the weaker spots that we have. But much like my Joe Heartedness, if I see Taylor, I'm not panicking. I'm going, okay. And so I want to see him. Basically, I'm rambling, but I want to see him when the season starts because I think preseason is just that. Preseason, sure. You can get going. But I didn't even notice. I noticed Taylor arguing with one of the centre backs at one point because somebody wasn't covering him.
No, that was Taylor being an absolute idiot and pulling Semedo down on the halfway line for no reason. There was no reason.
Yeah, well, he just got away from him. I mean, it was like he'd hot for him. I agree with you. I think he was getting bagged around against Wolves, but I thought that even in Japan, I thought he wasn't up to snuff. But that might have just been, Mallorca and a couple of cocktails. I don't know.
Did he meet Rodgers too with Cal McGregor? No, but again, look, I'm not pissing on Greg Taylor. I thought in the inverted fullback position under Postecoglou, he done fantastically well. Roscoe was seeing it in the Sky Sports thing today. He mentioned it. He was breaking into spaces in the midfield. He was kind of playing them link balls to the forwards. He did the crossbar challenge today. He got 4 in like 23 seconds, which was fantastic. And John Kennedy, for some reason, said he can't deal with pressure on TV. What's going on? Yeah. But I think for me, look, Bernabé as well. I'm including Bernabé in this. I don't think none of them, for me, are good enough to win the European season this season. If we're matching the ambition, we look at Wolves and Japan. Ross, you're right. I thought there was games in Japan where he really, really struggled with the pace of the game. That could be the heat, could be the humidity, could be all sorts over there. You obviously come to the Aviva. He didn't look himself. He really struggled with the ball this week, and that was one of his strengths last season. And then the point where he brought Semedo down on the halfway line for absolutely no reason whatsoever, and then he had a go at Liam Scales for no reason whatsoever. So where do you stand on it? I mean, fullback position overlapping, for me, that's not a strength, and that's something we need to look at as a club.
It certainly isn't his strength. I said that when Rodgers came in. I don't know how he would fare in that. For me, Greg Taylor has been one of Celtic's top performers for the past 2 seasons. Mm-hmm. I think he's been 7, 8 out of 10 most games. I'm one of Greg Taylor's biggest fans. I think he's a really good player. I think he would do a really good job for Scotland if we didn't have Andy Robertson and Kieran Tierney, who are as close to world class as a Scotland player will get. But if they didn't exist and Scotland had Greg Taylor, I think we'd all be pretty happy with him. I'm fairly happy with Greg Taylor. I understand, and I'm no daft to say that I think Rodgers won't play him as an inverted fullback. Certainly not as much as what Ange did, and I think he's more suited to that role, coming in the middle of the park and playing the wee cute balls into the striker, into Kyogo and stuff like that. I don't think he's got the pace to be an overlapping fullback. Bernabé certainly has that on him. I think Bernabé is all the things that Ross said. I think he's skillful. He's got a shot on him. He's pacey. But as a defender, he he just honestly puts the absolute fear of God in me. On a one-on-one defending, I can't remember anybody quite as bad as him, in my opinion.
Mo Kamara.
But he really, really frightens me. I mean, if we were going into that Ibrox game on the 3rd of September, I'm not playing Bernabei in a million years in that game over Greg Taylor. Could we get better than Bernabei and Greg Taylor? Of course we could. Absolutely. Greg Taylor, for me, if Celtic sold him tomorrow, you could probably get, I don't know, maybe 6-7 million for him. So to replace Greg Taylor and get better, you're going to have to maybe shell out 10. Listen, it doesn't always work like that. You could maybe get somebody for the markets that we've been shopping in. That was a nice comment there.
Another view to the podcast, buddy.
Thanks for watching. But they could uncover somebody and no suspenders.
That's for us on a Saturday.
It'll be me this Saturday in the Gracies. No, listen. It's a difficult one. It's the same. It's similar to Hart in that, we could get better, but you might get lucky and uncover somebody for one of the markets that we've been. You might uncover another Hatate that way. We get him for a couple of million. You could get lucky in that way and get a player like that, but the chances are you'll probably have to spend quite a large amount of money to replace Greg Taylor. Is that the most needed position to fill at the moment? I don't know. It's a difficult one. I really feel bad talking badly about Greg Taylor because of how well he's done for us. But yeah. I'm not stubborn enough to sit here and say that we can't get better than him, because of course we can. But it's just difficult to do that. But if we can do it, get it done. Because I want Celtic, I've said it and we'll probably get on to it. At the minute, you're looking at the transfer window, and when Ange came in, it was about rebuilding the team. And in the first two windows, it was we signed probably the calibre of player that we've signed in this window, but they improved the team all the time in the windows because the team was needing rebuilt. We've now rebuilt the team. And I think we need to be going to that next level of player, maybe 6, 7, 8 million to improve the 11 now, because we've won the treble, we've won the double. I want us to make that next step now and start trying to make a bit of inroads in Europe. And I'm not saying get out the Champions League group, because it's going to be difficult, even if you bring in the next couple of weeks, bring in 2, I don't know, 7, 8 million pound players. It's still going to be difficult to do that. But if you can get 3rd place and then try and win a knockout tie for the first time in, what is it, blinking 15 years or something like that.
2004.
Well, whatever that is, that's maths I can't even do. But it's you want them to start making inroads in that and just building that reputation in Europe back up to where it was maybe 15, 20 years ago. That's what I want them to be signing for now. And on the face of it, listen, without hindsight, these guys could improve the team and they could make, being starting 11 players in time. But on the face of it, on paper, I think we've sort of levelled out and we've no improved for our position of strength on paper as it stands, in my opinion.
Totally agree. We're going to come on to the transfer side of stuff. By the way, we're nearly an hour in and we've got a few more topics to get through, so I hope you kind of have your seatbelts on and strapped in. But to kind of break up the chat, Ross, I'll come to you for this. Obviously, we know tomorrow that it's James Forrest testimonial against Atletico Bilbao. We've got great history with that club. Billy McNeil and all was over visiting them, and we've done some fan kind of events with them as well. They're coming to Celtic Park, and it took a long while for the tickets to be uplifted, but it seems like we're heading toward a sellout. And for me, James Forrest, he deserves that. I remember when he came in, he made his debut against Motherwell. I always remember the black boots he wore that day, and he scored a goal, I believe. And ever since that. He's a one-club man, numerous trophies, and he's always been a bit hot and cold with supporters. Some in this podcast, like myself, will criticise him when he's bad, obviously, but you can't underestimate what he's done for the club. He's been there through it all. I mean, he's been there through Lenny twice, actually, Ronnie, Rodgers twice, and Postecoglou. So he's been there, he's done it, he's wore the T-shirt, and for me, anyway, he's a club legend. What do you think about the man?
I feel the exact same way. I think James, he's a brilliant player. You know, on his day, he's exceptional. I love the fact that he was a kid for us. He grew up from the ranks, came up through the youth system. I love the fact that he steers clear of social media and he stays away from that. You know nothing about his private life. I love that about him. I think it's you touching on, you know, a hot and cold with the fans. I think it's, you know, I think he's just been one of those players. Sometimes, you know, if he's had an off day, that flashlight is on him. But I think he's a brilliant player. I think it's fully deserved. You know, I heard a few whispers. People don't like the pricing of the tickets for the testimonial, and I get it. I understand it. People have families they've got to take care of and do their thing. But as far as like being, you know, a supporter of one of our own, there ain't many more one of our own as he is. You know, Callum would be in there as well. Kieran would sort of be in there with some people. But, you know, with James, it's like, of course, he's I remember Spurs were flirting with him a couple of years ago. There was that thing going on, you know, and whether or not offers came in or it was discussed, he's a Glasgow boy as well, you know, through and through, and he's Celtic mad. And you're right, you know, a one club man is a really not a normal thing. And someone like him, I adore it. I love that he's going to retire for us. I think he will. I saw his interview today as well, you know, and he's getting better with his interviews. I don't know if you've noticed.
He is, isn't he?
Yeah, he's not quite as shy and embarrassed now. I mean, he's still not the greatest talker, but he's getting there. But, you know, even him saying last season, he only started, 5 games or something. So under Ange, he was just a squad player. I think he's still of an age where he can do something for us. I think Brendan will really include him this year. And if he stays fit, I think he's brilliant. So I wish I was going. Yeah,
100%.
I was saying to my dad this morning because he's going, and I was like, you know, it's also a great thing for us. It's the first trip back to paradise, you know, for the season. It gets us back on the soil, on the home turf. We're playing against European opposition. It's a good friendly game for us, you know. It'll be good to see if some of the new boys, I think Rocky might be in contention to start. Might be nice to get some of the Korean lads out there and stretch their legs again. So I'm excited for the game itself.
I think the standard, when the standard of opposition gets better, do you know what I mean, for pre-season, it gets you ready for the upcoming games. And like you said there, and the Rocky said in his interview, I mean, Sky Sports were fairly doing the rounds. They did Celtic Park and Lennoxtown. Rocky said he said he's fit and he's in contention, and I seen the Forrest interview that you said. Now you almost had me disagreeing with you about what type of role he's going to play in the team this year, but I'll park that to one side. Come and do Ross. Roscoe, in terms of James Forrest, Ross mentioned it. Cal McGregor, perfect example. He's not on social media. James, he's kind of followed that lead. He's lived a quiet life. He's been out of the spotlight. He's led by example. He's been there through numerous players, by the way. I mean, you go through the list of players he's played with, it's incredible. And like Ross said, he was linked with Spurs, and we don't know if that got the formalities and different offers and proposals. But what a guy, what a legend. I mean, funny enough, he had his best seasons under Rodgers.
Yeah.
Obviously, he looked like he was out of the club, and he kind of reinvented himself like Scott Brown did at that point. But he's been incredible while he's been at Celtic.
Like you say, he did have his best season under Rodgers, but at the same time, he was probably in his peak years at that point as well. What is he, 31, 32 now? So under Rodgers, he's been maybe 27. So he was in his peak years, but Rodgers, he put a new lease of life into James Forrest. And I mean, I remember when he was like younger, and he came into the team and then he was becoming a regular. And he used to get pelters all the time. And I totally understand. There was a lot of Celtic Rangers games where he was accused of hiding. I don't think he had, but he just couldn't get into the game. You had to look at it, and he was young and he was still upcoming. These are big games. He's been a Celtic supporter all his life. Sometimes the emotion of the game can overtake you. But I think over the years he's learned to sort of deal with that pressure, and he affected games more certainly, like you say, in the Rodgers era. He was certainly a thorn in Rangers' side in a lot of the games. And down the years, you look at it, he scored a lot of massive goals for Celtic. Obviously, he had, was it Angie's first season? He got the only goal in the semi-final against St Johnstone. Huge goal. He got the goal.
Shakhtar
Karagandhi. Aye, I was at that game that night. It was unbelievable finish. But he's scored huge goals like that, and he's so dynamic, James Forrest, and direct. And people will slag his running style and stuff like that, but he's obviously not got that same bursty pace that he did. And that's probably took a wee bit away from his game, because that's what his game was built on. But I've always been a huge fan of James Forrest, and I loved seeing when he started to prove the doubters wrong, certainly under Rodgers. But before that, he was one of that type of Celtic player that I like, a winger that we're renowned for. And he's very direct, and he just runs at guys, and he beats guys, and he cuts inside, and he scores goals. And that's what, for me, a Celtic winger is all about. I don't think that he's going to play, well, I think we all know that he's not going to play as much football as he did the first time under Brendan Rodgers.
No.
You look at it, and we've got Abada on that side. Okay, James Forrest can come in and play on the left-hand side as well, and I think he will do that at times this season.
But
Abada's going to be...
or
No, that's definitely no.
Oh,
but
Brown Moyer
a...
made a point that James Forrest offers a bit more defensively, so you can maybe see that in European football.
I made that point a couple of times last year as well. He absolutely does. And physically, he's stronger than Abada, but we've all seen that Abada does. He looks like he's bulked up a bit. He was just a like in a boy's body, really. But he has bulked up. James Forrest is not going to be in the team in front of him. Abada's going to be on the right-hand side. Brendan Rodgers, Scott Sinclair this time around. I fully believe that. I think he'll get probably in the region of the goals that Scott Sinclair got as well. I think he's going to be a massive player for us this season. But James Forrest, and say cup games, even home games sometimes, if off the back of a European tie, when Abada's played in the European tie, James Forrest will come in and he'll do a great job. And listen, his medal haul speaks for itself. It's up there with your Cal McGregors, and you've said it, you've alluded to it. Consummate professional, in the same way that Cal McGregor is. He's come up through the ranks. He's been, how many years has he been in the first team? About 13 years now.
Oh, about 13, easy.
Aye, he's an absolute club legend.
Yeah,
people, he can be divisive. People he doesn't unite the fans like a Cal McGregor does in terms of how good a player he is. But for me, James Forrest has been a brilliant player. He's still got a bit to offer, and he's a club legend and absolutely superb what he's done. A massive chunk of his life to Celtic.
Yeah, and also as well, that kind of tradition of taking the money home and your testimonial is gone. It's going to charity, so it's a brilliant cause. And anyone who's looking to buy tickets, just go on the website and do it. I mean, support charities and support a homegrown. What did they call him, a hero in his book or something? James Forrest or something like that. Anyway, but he's a cracking player. And he even had that purple patch with Scotland. Remember, he scored like a hat-trick against Cyprus. So you can do it.
I think for any of these players, it just, it really does show. Like if he shows up there tomorrow and it's a half-empty stadium, I just think that's a shame. Because how do you feel about that with your teammates? How do you feel that? You know what I mean? There's a little bit of ego involved as well. And so I'm like, I hope people can, get there and afford it and make the effort and all that jazz. It'd be nice to get a full house for him.
I would have liked to have went myself. I've just not been able to, and we've got something on tomorrow night, so I'm not getting along to it, but I would have loved to because...
Got a bingo on tomorrow.
Bingo, aye.
He's overcome with emotion. He's too full of goal.
No suspenders, mate. No
suspenders. No, only on a Saturday. Stephen knows that.
I'm looking forward to this Saturday. Alfred comes in. Forrest is a very underrated player, 100%. But he's a club legend, and I think, like you said, Ross, get that stadium full, or as full as it can be, and support him in any way possible. But we'll move on, and we'll come to yourself, Ross. Here, Ross, go Ross. I hope we're getting the hang of this in the comments as well. Ross. But you're looking at it. You mentioned the Rodgers interview quite early on in the podcast. He done, I think it was 6 minutes, 7 minutes with Sky Sports, and obviously they're trying to get to the nitty gritty of the transfer business, kind of skipping over questions. And he was basically saying, in no uncertain terms, that Celtic are not going to spend between 15 and 20 million pounds because, for one, they can't afford it, and it's reality, and also Celtic have a well-established model that things came to the forefront under Postecoglou, and it's always evolving, it's improving with Mark Lawwell, with Chris Mackay, Michael Nicholson, and all the scouts and stuff involved in that team. But again, you can kind of counteract that. We're sitting on loads of cash. We've done tours of Australia. We've done a tour of Japan. Our kits are selling out all over the globe. We're getting transfer fees in for Jada, 25 million plus. So where do you stand in this? And then Rodgers confirming there's going to be more incomings, which is fair enough, and he's going to have an imprint. But like Roscoe said in the podcast too, we need to get to that next bracket of player. I mean, yeah, it's exciting when you're signing Kwan or Yang and it's the unknown. And we're not being arrogant or ignorant towards them players because Kyogo came from obscure and Hatate came from J League, and we know it works. But at the same time, we're talking about ambition in European football. So why can't Celtic push the boat out to maybe go to a £15 million player? Or do you think it's right within Rodgers is doing it? He has the final say. We'll do it that way.
I think it's not about a transfer. I think it's about a wage. And I think when you're buying players for 15 to 20 mil, the wage that is demanded with that kind of sale is 2-3 times what Celtic pay. Now, the argument could be, well, why don't we pay them more? Look, I go back and forth with this because as a fan, I go, if we want to compete in Europe, you've got to bring in players. You know, you can't just keep rolling the dice. Well, maybe we'll get lucky, and we sell these players for 25 mil and whatever. Celtic is a business, whether we like it or not. Football is a business. And, you know, books have to be balanced and books have to look good. And, you know, we never want to go down to Swanee like other teams did.
And you have to pay your taxes.
Exactly. So, you know, you want to keep your books clean and you also want to show profit and margins. And look, do I think that the owners of Celtic Football Club are football fans? Yeah, I do. You know, I think, you know, when you're dealing with the Glaciers and whatnot down south, I think it's a different kettle. But for us, you know, I think there are fans within our CEO base and owner base, but it's also a business. And so if they're going to sell somebody for 24 million and buy somebody for 10 million, you know, that's a good profit margin for them. Unless you're going to go out and spend hundreds of millions, you're not going to get a Champions League team. And the reason that it's happening in England is because, you know, the TV rights down there are, you know, blow us out of the water. You know, the smallest team in the English league can afford an £80 million player. They just can't. So unless we're getting that kind of revenue as a business, you have to go. The desire is, yeah, we won the Champions League, you know, the European Cup a long time ago. Could we ever win the Champions League? Not if we're still in the Scottish League, because there's no infrastructure, there's no money coming in to be able to build that team.
But see to come at you though, right? So you're saying there's no money coming in. That's fair enough. We all know Neil Doncaster does a horrible job of promoting the Scottish game. But if you're buying a caliber of player that, let's say, is well known throughout maybe European football, right? Then other European players be like, I can go there, and then therefore that might generate sponsorships, income. So you have to look at it two sides of the coin. You can spend money to bring money back in, or you can be safe.
Sure, but you can only do that once or twice, right? You can only afford to. I mean, how much money do you think that you can go out and actually spend on players? Let's say like the war chest was open, and you went out and bought 2 players for 35 million, right? You know, so what, 17.5 million each, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those are only 2 players. That 2 players is not going to completely change that squad. Now, what the English have, that's a bonus, is they can buy 8 players of around a lot of money, right? And all of a sudden, you have a quicker turnaround. Now, I agree with you. My fandom goes, well, we have to be able to compete. We have to have like the desire to go and win the Champions League, right?
Yeah.
But the people that are winning the Champions League have so much more money, so much more, like astronomically more, that you go, okay, so what is our bar? And could that take 10 years of buying 2 players at a time? You've only got to look at Jota, right? You look at someone like Jota, who's young. We bought him in for nothing. Well, I mean, 7 or 8, whatever it was, and sell him for 24. It was a big shock, but he's going because it's life-changing money. He's not going because he hates Celtic. He's not going because he loves the Saudis. He's going because
hope not.
He's going because he can get paid 10 million a year, tax-free. That would take him 20 years at Celtic to earn that money. 20 years.
I get that.
1.5 million a year or something. So
but you mentioned, sorry to cut in there, but you mentioned about Champions League, right, and winning the Champions League. But you only have to look at teams like Ajax, Benfica, Feyenoord. They make impacts in Europe.
But so look at the money they sell their players for.
100%. But that's what I'm coming to. But they've done this model, right? Fair enough. Feyenoord maybe to a lesser extent, but they still make more impacts than we do.
Well,
you don't see.
The reason for that is, Stephen, and this is the sad part, and this has got nothing to do with us and nothing to do with our league, is people undercut the Scottish league. Ross is right.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, when you go to Ajax or whatever, they sell players for a lot of money.
Was it Delict for like 60 million to Juventus?
Right. The most we've ever sold is 24 million or 25. How much was Kieran? 25, right?
Yeah.
So
25, yeah.
That's the most we have ever said. Now I'm going, fucking don't sell him for less than 40.
Mm-hmm.
I don't run.
But see, the thing is as well, the reason they're able to demand that higher fee is because Holland or Dutch teams, the national team, have got to the later stages a lot of tournaments for about 30, 40 years, maybe more than that. And they're producing a higher calibre player, which in turn, Scotland are no doing that and producing that level of player. So they can't demand that fee like what they demand for a Delict or who was the Van de Beek?
Van de Beek, Frankie de Jong.
Aye, guys like that. You're talking region of £40 million. Celtic are never going to be able to demand that fee for any player, no matter how well they do, foreign or Scottish. And for me, I know I'm sort of cutting in here, but for me, in terms of spending that maybe 12 to 15 million pound a player, Celtic have got the money to do that. Absolutely, I don't think anybody can argue that. But for me, just say they spend 12 million on a player in this window, right? They probably won't spend another 12 million on another player in this window. But then, for talking sake, they spend 12 to 15 million on another player in the January window or the following window, right? That's in the region between 20 and 30 million pound, let's say, for talking sake, that they've spent on 2 players like Ross. That's not going to take you to the next level just doing that. But that amount of outlay on 2 players for Celtic, they are not then going to keep doing that. It'll be a long time before Celtic spent that money on another player again. And if they then sell the players, or one of the players, after a couple of years, they done well, and they sell them for, I don't know, 30 million, Celtic will not then go out and spend 15 million again on somebody to replace them. They won't do it because it's just not how their model works. And for me, then there'd be unrest for the fans or why they're not doing that. And it's just, for me, for Celtic to spend that money, you would need to do it all the time. Celtic won't do that all the time. Like Rangers, they spent 12 million on Torre Andrew Flo. They never done it again right up until they died. They never done that and spent that kind of money again. Celtic would be the same. For Celtic to get the benefit of spending that on players, they would have to spend it on 3, 4, 5, 6 players, maybe more over the period of maybe 2 years to try and go to that real next level of getting out of a group again. And they're not going to do it because it's not sustainable for Celtic, in my opinion, to do that. And it's okay doing it once.
That's where the business model comes
in.
It's because the truth is, and I hate even saying this, but the truth is, because it is a business, the owners that are claiming money from that business will be more than happy getting qualifiers for Champions League, gives them a bunch of money, selling 1 or 2 players for 4 times the amount they paid for them, and then just quarter of that back in. That's their business. They go, great, I'll walk away with 30 million and I'll spend 6, and we might get another 30 million in Champions League next year with this 6. But that's really the desire, because, you know, they're not looking at it going, we want to go the full way every year to win Champions League. And that crushes me as a fan, because I go, well, you know, where's the want? Where's the desire? You must want to go out and do this. And they do want to do it, but they want to earn a profit. And if they're and the profit in Scotland, Stephen, is so low for the Scottish League. It's so low compared to around the world that they go, we ain't going to get that. If they were getting 105 million a year, every year from TV rights, then they could splash 60, 70 million and still be walking away with a handsome return. They're just not getting that. They're getting 5.
Yeah, no, I get that, but that falls into the Neil Doncaster side of things. He's dreadful at promoting the Scottish game. I mean, when the Belgium, Norway leagues are getting more money, that's shambolic, and that's no disrespect to the leagues, obviously, them teams competing. But the way I'm coming across this, I'm seeing it in the comments as well. Like, yes, we have to make profit. We don't want to be in the red. We don't want to be minus money, and that's great. When you get the accountants and the results at the end of a financial year, we've been told twice now this year that it's going to be higher than expected. So obviously we're healthy in terms of money.
Yep.
So you look at that. We're not in breach of FFP regulations. I know Rangers are being looked at. By the way, long time coming, because I don't know where they're getting the money from. So they're getting looked at by FFP, that they're clamping down on people spending more money than they bring in. 100% give it to me, Ross, in terms of profit margins. But we cannot be happy, surely, with, right, let's say, Edward, 9 million quid, right? We can't wait another 12 years to break that. That's not moving forward.
But if we do it all the time, it's not sustainable.
But if you're doing the aggressive business model and you're selling the player to combat that, that's fine. But as long as you put the money back into the team instead of taking home a maximised profit and not investing in the squad. I mean, you said it at the start of the podcast. We've stood still in terms of position. We're position of strength. We haven't really kicked on and signed first team ready players. We're beefing out the squad. That term was used so many times under Postecoglou, quite frankly, pisses me off, because we need quality players to come in and take over from the players who are already there. I think that's natural and evolution of a team. So to be happy with a £2 to £3 million player all the time coming in, maybe 5 or 6 of them, that is, for me, it's not the way to go. Yeah, you get a gem in them 6, in the 6.
The problem we've got is we've had success with Kyogo. We've had success with Tate, right? We've had success with Jota. And the issues are, is the people that are, forget the running of the club, just the people who own the club are going, why would I spend 20 million when I can spend 3 and get the results I'm getting and still get the profits I'm getting? Now, you and I, as Celtic men, go, well, that's horrendous, right? And what's funny about this is you and I are having a conversation that me and my dad have, and I'm you. And I say all the stuff I say to my dad, and he quite rightly is going, mate, it's the business model. I'm never say never, but unless we get into another league where that TV rights is paying us astronomical amounts of money, we won't be able to compete with these big boys, because it is a financial thing. And it's what Ross was saying. The truth is, and I think I brushed upon it earlier, unless you're buying 6, 7 players for that kind of money, 1 or 2 players is not going to do that. All it's going to do, I mean, it might do it in the Scottish League. You know, we might bring in like a 20 million, wonder kid who comes in and absolutely slays it up there. But that's, you can't rely on that to progress the team financially forward, and also, in Europe, which is where all our dreams and ambitions are lying.
And by the way, see if you're spending that kind of money on 6, 7 players over the course of a 2-year period, say, right? The law averages, as much as Celtic will do their due diligence, and it'll never be a punt, the law average will say 1 of them, maybe 2, might not work out, and then you have to take a hit on them to get rid of them, like in a Yeti.
Well, you have to take the risk.
I'm looking at it. See, when I was saying earlier about what the business we've done at the moment in this window has sort of kept us just leveled us out. I'm looking at it and saying, I want to buy a couple of players between 6 and 8 million. And when you look at that, we obviously brought in Carter Vickers and Jota on loan, but then we realised, right, they 2 were another level. So we then went and shelled out 6 million and 6.5. Can't mind what one was 6.5 and what one was 6. But that was £12 million in that window on 2 players. I would like Celtic to go and get another 2 players before the window shuts at £6 to £8 million. Now, I know that there's no guarantees, but Celtic will, like I've said, they'll do their due diligence. It'll never be a punt. Sometimes it won't work out, but it won't be for Celtic making sure they're getting things right. It'll maybe just be the guy, if he's a foreign guy, he maybe come in and he doesn't adjust to the country or whatever, and it goes wrong in that sense. But in terms of due diligence, in terms of a football sense, what they can do on the pitch, I want them to go and spend 6 to 8 million on 2 players maybe before this window shuts, at the level of a Carter Vickers and a Jota, who they can improve the team. And then maybe not January, but maybe next summer, go and do that again on another 2 players, maybe 3 players, to improve the 11. I don't want Celtic to spend 12 to 15 million pound, because they'll maybe only do it in 1 or 2 players. And I don't really think that benefits Celtic much. It doesn't make a huge difference to the I know, listen, they're going to be another level of player, but in terms of the team as a whole, I don't think it gets us out of group just buying 2 players at £12 million. But if we buy over the course of 2 seasons, we could buy players at 6 to 8 million at the Carter Vickers and Jota level. I think slowly that improves us. Again, it doesn't get us out of group, but I think that model, that sort of bracket, is quite clearly more sustainable than buying guys at 12 to 15 million, because of where we play our football, because of the revenue we're able to generate off TV and stuff like that. I don't think Celtic would keep spending £12 million, £15 million on guys, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys, whereas I think they are more capable of doing that in the £6 to £8 million bracket.
I'm just reading a couple of the comments here, and somebody had said, take the risk. I agree with Stephen, take the risk. And listen, my heart says take the risk. But again, if somebody's saying to you, hey, risk your own money, right now you'll earn a ton of profit every year. You'll earn 25 to 30 million a year. Why don't you risk it all to see if you can earn 60 to 70? Most people will go, no, I'm happy with a 25, 30. And I don't like that, but that's business. And that's,
but is that healthy?
Well,
is that healthy?
Is it healthy for a fan? No, because a fan wants what the fan wants, and I'm the same. I want us to go. It drives me nuts. Somebody else had said something earlier. Being in Europe shouldn't be a bonus; it should be a given.
Yep.
And I agree with that. It drives me fucking crazy when we're like, oh no, we are Celtic. Celtic are a good foundation football club that could go out there and compete, and it drives me nuts that sometimes we do go, oh no, it's a bonus that we get in the group stage, we should settle for 3rd place, we should settle for Europa. Fuck no, we've got to have the guile to go out there and try and get 1st or 2nd spot. It shouldn't be. Now, are we always going to do that? No, but sometimes we can. And what you're saying is it healthy? No, it's not healthy. But again, the only way to look at it is look at your own savings. If you had a nice little chunk of money put
I'm
away.
skimp.
That's why you're saying fucking take a risk, right? And he's turning around going, why? I'm making a healthy profit. Things are good. We're playing good, sexy football. It is what it is. And as long as we're in this league's money is going to suck. So do I agree with it? No, I'm a football fan. I'm a Celtic fan. I want Celtic to go and spend the money, take the risk, take the gamble. But if I'm being a grown-up, I can sit on the proverbial fence and go, I see why. I see why he wouldn't.
Well, put it like this. To finish off the kind of transfer talk, just kind of quick fire. Ross, I'll start with you. Are we weaker going into the start of the season than we were last season? Are we in a stronger position? Or as like Ross said, have we stood still?
I think we've stood still with a little bit of a lift. I think I'm not blown away nor convinced of our signings thus far. Haven't seen the new boy, Rocky. He looks like a unit. He looks like he can play. Everyone's videos look great. We can all edit our videos and we all look smashing.
We have to do this after this one.
It's so real, Oscar-worthy, all of it. But it's everybody looks great on the videos. Not enough time for the Korean boys for me to have a look at. Home, the Norwegian kid, hasn't done anything for me yet. Tilio haven't seen yet, so I don't know.
Injured.
Yeah, injured. And so, I mean, on paper, I'm sort of going, we haven't really strengthened. I don't think the window's over yet. I think we will do a marquee signing. It may not be a superstar, but I think we will be in that 8 to 12 million bracket. And only time will tell.
Yeah, no, I agree with what you were saying. I just like the debate and seeing the comments getting involved as well. Like you said, a couple of great points from the commenters. But coming to you, Roscoe, in terms of it, you said it. You're clear about it. We've stood still, and if you back that point up, I've seen the links today. Donny van de Beek, would that be a player with pique your interest? Apparently, we're challenging Real Sociedad. We're in for him.
Aye, I mean, if you can get Donny van, his career is sort of stalled a bit. It never worked out at Man United, but I think you're getting a good player there if you can get him. In terms of the window, at the minute, I think we have stayed. We've probably padded the squad out a wee bit. But in terms of the first 11, I think we've sort of we are at the same as, if you like. Certainly, if Abada can come on to a game again, I don't think we'll miss Jota as much as we maybe thought. But we've not improved per se. But listen, I said it earlier in the group chat that I'm no willing to make an absolute judgment on the window right now because it's still open. And I agree with Ross. I think we will maybe go into the market and get certainly one, maybe two. And I think Ross has said the 8 to 12 million pound bracket. I think it will probably be more the 6 to 8 million pound bracket. But I certainly think we'll sign what you believe on paper as another lively player and can improve that first 11. I think Rodgers will be looking to do that. Absolutely.
Well, he did confirm today that people are going to be incoming. He's going to have a say in who it is. So that's something to look forward to. And that brings us to the end of the podcast. But before we kind of wrap up, I want to make people aware, obviously, James Forrest testimonial tomorrow night. Hope he's all enjoyed who's going and watching on TV. Atletico Bilbao are coming to town. And we won't be doing our regular podcast on a Friday this week. We're going to be doing something different and a live podcast in Grace's Bar for the pre-match and post-match against Ross County Flag Day. When I say Grace's Bar, not the one in Glasgow, so no one piling the Glasgow and expecting us there. It's Grace's Bar and Willie's homemade pub, and we're all looking forward to it. It'll be something different. I'm going over as well, so it'll be good crack. And as we said at the start of the show, Ross McCall, buddy, you've joined the team. Have you enjoyed the podcast?
I'm having a blast, and we always tend to, don't we? Any time we can sit down and talk about the hoops, we're all happy. So yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Good man, and we'll discuss them fees after. Don't worry, we'll get on to that. And Roscoe, what about yourself, mate? Did you enjoy this one?
Thoroughly enjoyed it. Always have a good debate with you, Stephen. We don't always agree, and that's why our debates are good. But listen, that's what it's all about, supporting Celtic. Everybody's got an opinion, and it would be a boring world if we all agreed. But I'd just like to say as well, I'm really glad you've joined the team, Ross. And listen, you're just like us. You're a proper Celtic fan. You know your stuff, and it's good to have you part of the team. Like,
good man, hell well.
Until Saturday, when we'll be in a pub, maybe gassed up a wee bit, drinking and that. Stay well, Absolutely. Keep safe. Hail, hail.